If they built a house, maybe your dream home, where these trees once stood, your life would quickly become a nightmare. Bent, misshapen trees are the signposts of geopathic stress. Yet it is happening every day. Innocent families who know nothing of this are becoming victims in a grim, painful and financially costly situation that nobody wants to talk about. People in government, the media, local industry and health officials. So the fight or the case is up to the dowsing community. So in the next little while, let us take a look at the extent and dangers of geopathic stress, refining the decree technique, the magic of sound, the C notes, this is something brand new, and the cosmic principle, this is a stunning new look for something ancient and powerful. Bent, malformed trees, as we said, are the signposts of geopathic stress. The problem is nobody seems to know why these things happen. We know geostress eats away at homes. Gutters and sidings are the first signs that a home is under attack. A tourist standing nearby called this little thing cute, little knowing the real and cruel situation. Look at the malformed trees behind this home. Geopathic stress is rampant. The place is empty. Nobody wants to live here, and they don't know why. It is such a nice house, cosmic yellow, and I'm sure there must be a story, possibly dramatic, by the people who first created this home. But trying to find the owners, well, when you ask for their identity at City Hall, we're sorry, privacy laws do not permit. So the owners, the neighbors, and the city continue to lose out by having a dead home on their street. Many afflicted homeowners call in the repair crews. They work and probably have no idea at all, they're working on the geopathic stress zone that also caused the tree nearby to become malformed. We told them about geopathic stress and they laughed and said, "You're nuts." These two homes in New Jersey actually fell apart and had to be rebuilt. This is one of the physical costs of geopathic stress. The human costs are much higher. These ailments are often attributed to geopathic stress. Now, in reality, exposure reduces the body's immune system. Prolonged exposure, such as sleeping, working in one place, studying, or watching TV or laptops, reduces the immune systems. Why does this happen? Well, beneficial magnetic energy generated at the Earth's core passes through water veins and through friction goes negative, becomes toxic. Studies show the principal ailment is cancer. When someone is suddenly afflicted with cancer, no one, not even the doctors, suggest they look under the bed. An Austrian schoolteacher and dowser, Kathy Batchelor, coined the phrase cancer beds. She found homes where over time, one bed had successfully taken the lives of 3 or 4 family members. Her works were extensive. She researched 11,000 people in over 3,000 apartments, houses and workplaces. But the phrase cancer bed always intrigues us because geopathic stress can be found lurking with all the people who should be fighting it at home base. For instance, in our dowsing research, we found geopathic stress right at the American Cancer Center in Atlanta, Georgia. The yellow lines denote the roots of the geopathic stress. All or most of our dowsing is done on Google Earth and is accurate to within 3 feet or a meter in most cases. We also found a similar situation at Rutgers Cancer Institute of New Jersey. Both institutes were sent copies of these pictures. We all sent copies of my book, The Silent Killer Below, Hunting and Healing Geopathic Stress. We never heard back. We checked 50 places. We checked 50 places around the world. In Taiwan, the Lingkou Changgung Memorial Hospital stands on the leading edge of advanced reconstructive microsurgery techniques. It handles over 8 million outpatient visits a year. So we found Geostress running through it, and we mailed them. No response to date. We even told them about the beneficial geospirals of the radiating beautiful healing and beneficial energies. It's not just the home that is affected. It can be the office. In fact, it can be any workplace, a shop, a marketplace, a stadium seat, a bus station. The presence of geostress anywhere always seems to upset people. Physically, it throws them off balance, physically and mentally. Look at that last line, sleeping infants wake up screaming. Here's why. When an infant in a crib is positioned on a geopathic stress zone, the pattern is they go to sleep, and soon after they wake up crying hard or even screaming, as if terrified, which they might well be. The mother soothes the baby and returns it to the crib. Soon after, the action is repeated and repeated, and finally the child seeks comfort with the mother in her bed. And this particular situation needs much more exposure because it's happening all over the place, and mothers don't know why. The problem is geopathic stress affects the baby's serotonin levels, and the possibility of infant death becomes very high. A British study a few years back showed 80% of infant crib deaths occurred over geopathic stress zones. So it always makes me nervous when I hear the words, my baby has trouble sleeping in its crib. Geopathic stress can also affect the mind. It has been scientifically shown in a large study by the University of Vienna that geostress plays havoc with serotonin levels. Serotonin is a key neurotransmitter that plays key roles in such body functions as mood, sleep, digestion, sexual desire, and general well-being. The bottom line, I think, is very important. So, serotonin, remember that. As we have shown with houses, geopathic stress wreaks havoc with concrete and parking lots. This geostress zone ran through the magistrate's court, and one wonders, who did it affect? The magistrates, lawyers, witnesses, the accused? Yes, we cleared it for them. Officially, they did not ask. A policeman on his beat did. That's life. Over the years, geostress changed partial elevation of the floor in this townhouse in Mount Holly, New Jersey. Things on wheels would run across the floor. In addition to all the other influences like making people dizzy. It's been empty for years. So here again, who is losing money? Geopathic stress is costly. This is the scientific report from Far East universities that stated the line that has become used by myself and other dowsers. Prolonged exposure to geopathic stress can affect all humans, animals, pets, and all living things. At the University of Pune, India, they use a team of 6 dowsers to detect geostress zones on the Pune, India expressway, which is highly accident prone. Once the geostress zones are detected, they then move in their heavy measuring equipment. American scientists appear not to be touching geopathic stress, but overseas university scientists at Vienna, Moscow, India, Malaysia, Singapore, the Philippines, and Germany are working and studying the powers of geopathic stress and trying to find ways of healing. Our dowsing survey showed most of the key places in Washington are affected by geopathic stress. We sent photos and a copy of our book and offered to clear permanently as a public service. Either nobody read the letter, or if they did, they figured it was a crank call. This is the dangerous attitude in high places that grips America. So this is the White House, and the geopathic stress is in color. Note how the two embrace either side of the Oval Office. Now this is the place where major decisions are made regarding our country and the world. One phone call to a dowser and it would be neutralized in a moment. We are told that one recent president was away from the office for over 500 days. That's over a third of 4 years. So let's talk about geostress and how we as dowsers can fight it. For many years I've been using the decree technique based on the biblical prophet Job's work. This is the first decree. It works very well on handling all geostress cases. I sense it utilizes higher powers of the universe, and I consequently use the term Holy Spirit, which serves as a power and is available for humans. It's whatever makes you function. You can use whatever power suits you best, as in the names of the saints: Buddha, Zoroaster, Zen, infinite intelligence, and in the name of love. Now here's a thing, they all work. The decree technique relies on 3 words: transmute and convert. And this formula works on all sorts of energies, and I've seen it work on diverting waterways in Samanam, Canada. A stream changed back to its original course. We have used Holy Spirit on a high percentage of the 850 cases we've had in the past 5 years. So you use whatever works for you. But as in all things, you have to have intent. This 6-letter word is key. It is of paramount importance in dowsing. And if you haven't got it, well, it's zilch. It's nada. Nothing happens. The decree technique, using whatever power you choose, works well when you are standing on the geopathic stress zone. The problem comes when you are dowsing remotely, and this is a problem that needs explaining. We have found that the decree technique works better over any distance if you think of yourself on site, on target. And as you state the decrees, imagine yourself passing round or through the target. But just keep moving. Feel yourself there. Do not pay attention to any views that might come up. Just keep sounding the decrees and roaming around on the target. This sounds much like mental or astral projection, but it isn't really. It does work, however. I normally start the decree by saying, okay, I'm on the ground outside the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum. Or I am now on the ground at the chalet in the Whistler Ski Resort in British Columbia, where I left my skis about 20 years back. Practice imaging that you are somewhere else. No trance stuff or toning or mantras, stuff like that. Just close your eyes and state, I am on the ground. And you can do it as you swing your pendulum to get into the thought and the mood of that. I am on the ground. Imagine you are in the building, and as you sense it, state the decrees. State the address. State the address is always important. This is the third decree, and it's important. And for this reason, families that have suffered physically and financially, perhaps for years, need something a little extra. Clearance is great, but if you have the power to clear geostress, you have the power to fill and endow the place with energy that is uplifting, beneficial, healing, and loving. And if a little voice says, wait, I'm not worthy, for heaven's sake, don't judge. That's ego stuff. Just enjoy being a remote dowser and healer. I personally think dowsing is a human ability like talking, seeing, and feeling. And if you have not developed and used that gift, you're not fully human. Think about that. I think all people dowsing should be taught in schools. Anyway, that's my thought. Before we move on, I would like to share 2 projects we did, and you can do this sort of thing too if you want to, helping the afflicted. And it's best to start remote dowsing and the clearing on trees. Then you can move on to bigger things. But for now, trees. For instance, in Delaware's Killens Pond State Park, there were 2 lines of apparently dead trees in the main parking lot. They both existed on geopathic stress zones. This photo was taken in the summer of 2020. We cleared them remotely. We cleared the geopathic stress remotely and sent beneficial, uplifting, healing, and loving energy. I haven't mentioned this before, but keep records of your work, visually with photos and also on paper. Well, nothing happened. Nothing happened. And in the summer of 21, I was afraid the rangers would cut the trees down. And then in the summer of 2022, this year, we find most of the trees are suddenly coming back to life, sprouting new growth, like this one. And these, will the trees ever be the same? Heaven knows. But when you do clear an apparently dead tree, make a record, take a photograph, and go back and check in a year or so. This chalet overlooking the Atlantic at Bowers Beach, Delaware, stood empty for almost 10 years. We also found many homes and buildings also standing empty in the village, even in the summer, because the place was riddled with geopathic stress. We remotely dowsed and found some 20 geopathic stress zones running through the south half of the village. Just driving through the place, one could feel the heaviness of geopathic stress. And Betty Lou always used to say, I feel nauseous, can we get out of here? And we did. So we did everything remotely. The north side of the village had even more zones. How does one clear 2 places with over 40 geopathic stress zones? Well, Working on Google Earth, you simply draw a box around your target and treat it as you would an apartment block, and state the decree technique. We did it on the afternoon of August the 30th in 2021, when most people were watching the last of the American forces leaving Afghanistan. Okay, did it work? Absolutely, absolutely. When the village held their annual pirate days this year, the usual few hundred folks suddenly swelled to about 2,000. The energy had changed. The mayor, who had never said anything before, came and thanked us. And that's Betty Lou at the flag. If you do not like talking in remote dowsing and healing, we have two, I suppose, new techniques. I think they're both old. If you are a non-spiritual dowser, in other words, a mechanically minded scientific type, you will enjoy this next technique. It came to us some months ago, and we've been testing it ever since. But let me step back a bit. When we wrote the book, Tracing the Cosmic Principle, we discovered an interesting energy form. We knew that when we held a pendulum over geospirals, it would swing counterclockwise. That energy also exists in certain words, names, and elements. Hold a pendulum over certain words like yellow, and also the color yellow, and it will insist on swinging counterclockwise. Even if yellow is written in Spanish, amarilla, the word generates a counterflow. Even in Latin, flavus, Latin generates that counterclockwise flow of the pendulum. It's the only color that reacts this way. So why does it happen? You can make it your life's mission, and you may save the planet from something. I don't know, but it's a fascinating phenomenon. Another is the C note. A C note on a piano or any musical instrument. Hold a pendulum over a piano while it's striking a C note, and it will swing counterclockwise. Spirit told me, and this must drive the musical skeptics crazy. If you sound a C note over a geopathic stress zone for 30 seconds, it will neutralize that zone. No words, just thinking, our old friend intent. So how do you generate a C note for 30 seconds? A keyboard with an organ facility could sound a C note, but honestly, I don't feel like hauling Betty Lou's 50-pound keyboard into a remote forest testing ground. So then the logic struck me in the way of my native Indian flute. Well, I tried. Like any investigative dowser, I tried it on a flute and found it's almost impossible, for me at any rate, to sustain a C note for 30 seconds. And I do practice deep breathing as a routine. Well, then another idea struck me. A sound tuner. Well, in another era, Betty Lou and I had purchased two sound tuners while studying sound healing. They were still in a box, and so we got them out and found they were made by Korg. I pressed the button. Caramba, it still worked and made good sounds. If this was to be an experiment, we had to have several. That's simply being fair. So we acquired two more, one from Tetra Technica, an EMT 800, the other from Amazon Basics, an MT40. And if you're ordering a chromatic tuner, make sure they generate sound. Some do not, and we had to return a couple. The nice thing about these tuners, they are small, smaller than an iPhone, and can fit into a pocket or purse quite easily. The power system is two AAA batteries that seem to last for years. For the experiments, we found some bent trees with geopathic stress zones. When you're out in the woods, we found it necessary to have three things. Now, here's the initial setup. You need a chromatic tuner that is set to the C note. A watch with a second hand so you can see the 0 to the 30 seconds mark. And an L rod that will indicate the geopathic stress zone. So let us move to the target. The rod is now sharp right and on target. Remember, your intent in all of this is to clear the geopathic stress zone that's going through the tree. When the watch indicates a starting point, the hour, half or quarter hour, you start the tuner. Nothing happens for a few seconds. Then suddenly, the L rod will move to about a halfway mark between the target and it pauses, it stops. And this happens every time. This occurs at about the 10-second mark in, and we don't know why. To be successful, the L rod has to swing back to the search position, which is straight ahead. After pausing for a few seconds at the halfway mark, it swings back through the arc to the original search position. It usually completes the arc in about 20 seconds. I held the situation until the full 30-second mark, and then I stopped. We checked the geopathic stress zone at the tree. It was gone. Zip, completely. It wasn't there anymore. This was success, and we hadn't even said a single word. We did, however, have the intent, and the intent was to clear. Somehow it did, and it does work. Try it and see how it works for you. It's called the power of the C note. So you are curious, and if you don't know what a C note sounds like, here it is. In the days and the weeks that followed, we used the C note technique to clear all sorts of challenges, even remotely. Yes, we cleared places thousands of miles away simply by using the C note technique. We cleared such places with the C note, such places as Buckingham Palace. The geopathic stress zone ran through the main building, and also the south gate seen here. We used it to clear the Sistine Chapel and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. The Sistine Chapel, of course, is in the Vatican. Remote dowsing shows they are still clear months afterwards, and we've used it locally on trees and, yes, people's homes, and it does work. So, how does it work? I honestly don't know. Is the intent so powerful that it carries the C note sound? I think we need to get out of the box on this one. And this is one of the deep dowsing mysteries that needs to be solved. How do you make a sound and it affects a geopathic stress zone 12,000 miles away? I honestly don't know, but it does. The way we see it, the C note technique becomes an instrument any dowser who can use a pendulum or an L rod. Yes, the pendulum also responds just like the L rod did. A large swing on target, a smaller swing during the C note, sounding, and no swing at the 30-second mark. If any dowsers do experimental work with the chromatic tuners as geopathic stress weapons, please keep detailed records, because this is getting towards the realm of science, and who knows, the scientists may one day warm up, and also other dowsers too. So, as we showed in my book, Chasing the Cosmic Principle, dowsing from the pyramids to backyard America, while the ancient pyramids seem to have a power that draws lots of people, it is not the pyramid itself that has the power, but the design, the plan, the layout, the engineering. So let's go to the diagram. Okay, here is the pyramid, here is a pyramid, and the diagram. So let's take the pyramid away. It's a square. We're left with a square with two lines joining the corners. This is the basic concept of a pyramid. It's the plan. Whatever you build on top is for decoration. And I'm told that the plan is cosmic. It's also a principle. So I'll go along with that. It didn't start with the pyramids. 6,000 years ago, in the time of the Sumerians, in what is now Iraq, they were writing clay tablets, like this one. And here we find the map, the plan, the layout of what is known as the cosmic principle. Hold a pendulum over the plan, and it swings counterclockwise. Walk away several feet, and it will continue to swing. It's then that you ask for the area of influence. The area of influence, and you may well be amazed. Incidentally, you can draw a rough square and link the four corners. Just rough. No measurements, just draw a square and link the four corners. And it'll still work. It'll still work. So you may well feel, what use is this in the neutralizing of geopathic stress? Betty Lou and I have a small cabana in central Delaware. When we acquired it 3 years ago, we knew it had problems with geopathic stress. This is the property under construction. As a rental property, people didn't stay very long. That's the common signal for geopathic stress being present. Well, we didn't know how bad it could be, particularly after heavy rains that triggered all sorts of bad energies. On June the 14th, 2022, this year, I suddenly found a zone ripping through the house right after I had just cleared one hours before. I had tried all sorts of defense systems. So on this date, June the 14th, tired and annoyed, I called on Bernard. Bernard, what can I do to permanently heal this house from geopathic stress? Now Bernard, who is a spirit of few words, said bluntly, use the cosmic principle. How? I asked. Cover the whole house, he said. And that's what we did. So saying, I brought up Google Earth, and using the drawing of lines facility, we enveloped the building, enveloped the whole building. The Google Earth picture of the house is not recent. In fact, it shows the house during reconstruction before we acquired it. Google Earth can be a little slow in places. Curious, I got my L-rod and went to see if anything had happened to the geopathic stress zone that had triggered this action. It had gone. I couldn't find it. But just not anywhere in the house or the pyramid boundaries. The geostress had also been wiped out from the houses next door. So the power extends outside the principle. This was stunning. This was stunning indeed. Could we live under the cosmic principle? Well, it happened on June the 14th this year, and to date is still holding well. We even did our New Jersey home 4 days later, and this too is holding fast. Now, before anyone rushes off and creates cosmic principle diagrams around their homes, offices and workplace, test it to see if your living energies are compatible with the cosmic principle, because some people are not. Well, that's one of the things we found out. It is such a different energy form that some people can't take it, and some people actually love it and dwell in it. And so you need to find that out. And yes, it does work on homes and buildings as far away as the United Kingdom and Australia, and we have them under trial. To date, all are good, so stay tuned. You realize, of course, the big difference between the decree technique and the C note and the cosmic principle techniques. There are no dialogues, no spiritual or religious connections. The one factor that exists in all three is intent, human intent. Intent is the prime mover in all three techniques. The force that carries the intent, I have no idea. And as Bernard says, that's cosmic. It is also interesting to note that both C notes and the cosmic principles can be used in remote dowsing as long as you have a map, or better still, Google Earth. Incidentally, if you haven't got Google Earth and someone sends you a map of their property with the address, yes, that still works too. There are many things that work. We just need to find and test them. For dowsers interested in exploring the powers of dowsing, we would appreciate any reports or comments that you may have to share. So go forth, swing, enjoy, and do good. Study and practice remote dowsing and healing. There are lots and lots of innocent people out there who are in pain and need help. Be a healer. Answer the call. Blessings.